for the 50-ish fans who are in right now. I got a couple hundred joining live. Then, of course, it'll be on YouTube on all platforms. So, guys, welcome. I'm Mikey Domagala, of course, owner of NBA Buzz, host of Inside Buzz. We're going to call this episode 30 of Inside Buzz, featuring, of course, none other than Arash Markazi, former writer on ESPN, the LA Times, Sports Illustrated. Now he's working for the WWE, and he hosts his own show, the Arash Markazi Show. So, Arash, I appreciate you being here and coming on the show.
Thanks for having me, Mikey, and congratulations on all your success. I mean, self-built, what a great channel you have.
Thank you. I mean, listen, you're a true inspiration to me, and we're going to touch on some things in your life which maybe you could be inspirational to other people. So before we start episode 30, I got to give a quick shout out to Meyer Zukai, of course, big NBA Buzz fan, a buddy of yours setting us up. I told him I'd give him a shout, and here we are. So shout out to him. So last night, I mean, oh my God, you're an LA guy. I'm busy enough with the NBA draft. I'm a baseball fan, of course, an NBA fan. The Los Angeles Dodgers make this huge blockbuster deal, Max Scherzer, Trey Turner. The LA Lakers land Russell Westbrook. Where did that all? So, crazy night in sports. Let me get your thoughts, and let me get your thoughts on the fit for both teams.
It's incredible, Mike. I'm so glad that we waited to do this because I think we had wanted to do this like last week or something, and we literally are now doing it on the day that both of these deals have, basically become official. Max Scherzer and Trey Turner, and everyone's forgetting about Trey Turner. I mean, he's an all-star player. He's coming over to the Dodgers too. And then Russell Westbrook, that trade won't be official until like August 6th, but that, he tweeted out a picture of himself wearing the jersey. I think it's a fantastic fit. I mean, here's why, Mikey. I think a lot of people are judging him based on the player that he has here. I think the player that is going to come to Los Angeles is a guy who's coming home to win a championship. And Mikey, he's been to the Final Four when he was at UCLA. He's been to the finals. He's won Most Valuable Player. He's averaged a triple-double. He's never won a championship. And so when I make this comparison, it's not from a talent point of view. When Dwight Howard came to the Lakers, it was a different Dwight. He knew his career was basically done. If DeMarcus Cousins doesn't go out and he's out for the year, Dwight Howard may be done. They signed him to a non-guaranteed contract. He made himself just tell me where I fit in. Talk to LeBron, talk to AD. I'm just going to be a guy on this team. And he was such a great teammate. And again, speaking of Dwight, I hope he finds a way back. But the Russell Westbrook you're going to get in Los Angeles next season can do what you want. He has the ability to average a triple-double, but he doesn't need to do that. And I don't think he is looking to do that. Transition over to the Dodgers, Max Scherzer, an amazing pitcher, can do it in the big spots, World Series, playoff, postseason. Trevor Bauer's career is obviously over here in Los Angeles, but to get Trey Turner and to get Max Scherzer, I always felt that the Dodgers were okay as soon as they got healthy. But Mikey, as soon as they make these deals, you get Corey Seager back, you're going to get Mookie Betts back, you're going to get Clayton Kershaw back. I mean, this is the best team in baseball. They are going to repeat. It's a beautiful day here in Los Angeles.
And I got to tell you, it's a beautiful day in New York as well. I didn't mind the Knicks' draft picks last night, but oh my God, Anthony Rizzo coming over, and of course Gallo. This is an NBA podcast, but of course I'm a baseball fan as well, so it's always great talking ball too. Now, Arash, what else do the Lakers need? What should they be going for? Of course, I'm assuming with Westbrook coming in, Dennis Schroeder's gone. They're not going to pay that $100 million plus that he wants, that, in my opinion, he's not totally worth right now.
No.
What else do they need?
Well, they need depth, Mikey. And the good thing about that is when you have LeBron and AD and Westbrook and you're in Los Angeles and Hollywood with the Lakers, they're going to get guys on the cheap. They're going to get guys on that minimum deal, that mid-level deal. So I have no problem. I have no concern about them filling out the roster. They do have to fill out the roster. The guy that I look forward to, because I think everyone's trying to say, like, how does the starting five look? this may be a moment for Taylor Horton Tucker to finally develop as the starting player, consistent player. He has not gotten those consistent minutes. THT can be a guy because like he's the number one guy. Whether it was for Kyle Lowry, whether it was for this deal, all teams want THT. This is how valuable he is. On the Lakers, there were three untouchable players: LeBron, and AD, and THT. And people would be surprised about that. They believe THT can be a star. He will be given that opportunity to shine now. But when you look to fill out the roster, you're going to get a lot of talented guys on the mid-level, on the minimum, who, again, want to come to Los Angeles, play with LeBron, play on this team.
Yeah, and I'm looking at that roster. I think they need shooters. I mean,
Yeah.
how much pay would they have enough for a Duncan Robinson? You know, Buddy Hield, can they really
Yeah.
try to pry him away from Sacramento with what they have and what they got rid of? Not sure, but that's, in my opinion, what they need. Transforming over to a journalism question and just talking about that side. Tell me about building relationships. How important is it to build relationships in this field? Of course, you've been around for so long. I've seen you interview so many different people. I know about your relationship with Kobe Bryant. Of course, that is just amazing stuff. Tell me, for young journalists, how you build relationships and down the line, how they've helped you.
Well, so this is so important. This is why I hope things get back to normal, Mike, because it's so hard to build those relationships via Zoom. And so when you talk to guys covering the league right now, and it's all via Zoom, we're all more than 6 feet away from these players. We're all wearing masks at these games. And I'm like, it's really hard. Like, I wouldn't have developed the relationships that I had with players via Zoom, 6 feet apart, wearing a mask. So, again, if things get back to normal, that relationship can start. And how can it start? It can start when you just have a casual conversation with a person. I mean, some of the best conversations I've had with Kobe were not on the record. My microphone wasn't out. My recorder was not out. I'm talking to him about his life. I'm talking to him about Gigi and Vanessa and whatnot. And the hope is, and this isn't always possible, because here's the thing, you're going to encounter players during your career who just don't want to be your friend or don't want to talk with you. But if you can develop that connection, you get to know them on a personal, the great thing is when you can get their cell phone number. Why? Because in the off season you can actually text them and be like, hey, is this true? Is this is what I'm hearing about you true? And so that's the thing. That is almost impossible to do via Zoom. I mean, you can't pull a guy aside via Zoom. You can't walk with him from the park, from the locker to their car via Zoom. So if things get back to normal, but again, developing that relationship outside of the scrum.
Final interview with Kobe before his sudden passing. October before that, January, so a couple months before. Tell me and things that you discussed and how that all arose.
Yeah, the amazing thing was this was a conversation that we had planned for a while, because going into that first game of the season, so we talked the day before. I did the day before the like opening day of the season, and Kobe had such a relationship with Kawhi and Paul George, and with Anthony Davis and LeBron, and so I wanted to talk to him before the first game of the season, the Lakers and the Clippers. Are you going to be there? Are you going to be watching? What's that going to be like? Mikey, hold on one second. I'm going to hop out of the car, and then I think the reception will be a little bit better. Hold on one second.
I see. Perfect.
Hold on. Okay, perfect. Let me just. But then so we had that plan, and the interesting thing was, there was a moment where we could have done that conversation via a phone call, because his office in Costa Mesa was not close to me. And I said, no, you know what? I hadn't seen Kobe in a while. And so I'd like to talk to him in person. And he was a big inspiration for the weight loss journey that I had. And I kind of wanted him to kind of, see, my transformation and things like that. And so I went and talked with him, and again, this was either the day of or the day before. I think it was the day before the first game of the season. And the cool thing about the conversation was we got to talk about life. I talked to him about Gigi, and he had the line that I'll never forget about that conversation was, I was like, dude, like, she looks like you when she's playing, like the way that she puts her like hands on her hips, the way that she plays. And he's like, genetics are a real thing, man. Like, and he was talking about her. And so that was the thing that got me really the most. And the first thing I thought of after his passing was just the relationship that he had. Because when I heard, the first report that came out was, that he was in a helicopter crash in Calabasas. And I was like, I know where he was going, and I know who's probably in that helicopter with him. So, yeah, I mean, it still does not seem real. It's still like, even today, whether it's been like over like a year later, that does not seem real.
Yeah, and you spoke about how inspirational he was to you on your weight loss journey, which we'll touch on later. But for the years of knowing Kobe, the dozens of conversations, I would assume, what's something that you remember him telling you, or giving you advice on a human level that you'll never forget?
It was just how hard he worked. And I saw that in person, but then I talked to him about that. I'll give you a quick story. This was 2009 in Orlando. And I didn't always stay at the same team hotel as the guys, but they were at the Ritz-Carlton Grand Lakes, like in Orlando. And if you're familiar with that, like, it's way off, like it's not close to the city. So Phil, back then it was a 2-3-2. So for the 3 games in between, Phil wanted them to be away from the hubbub. And after game 4, like, Kobe looked tired, and like the major storyline was like Kobe looked tired or whatever. And Kobe's like in the lobby till like 2:00 in the morning, like drinking Coronas and just talking about life. And I'm like, bro, like, don't you have like a game? And he's like, yeah, but like, he just never slept. And then so I went to go sleep. I couldn't sleep. I woke up at 5. Kobe's leaving the gym in like a full sweat. And I'm like, dude, like, you didn't sleep? He's like, I'll have plenty of time to sleep when the season is over. He just never slept. He just never. And so it's like, so if a guy like Kobe can work that hard, it's like, I think like I mean, there's no way like I'm going to work as hard as he does, but like, it wasn't just God given, right? It wasn't just because his dad played it in the league. Like, there was no one who worked harder than he did. And my favorite video that I shot of him, you may have seen it. So the Lakers PR department like opened practice a little bit too early. Like, so normally we can watch the end of practice when they're stretching and whatnot. Kobe is going at it. So this is when Jeremy Lin and Nick Young were on the team, and he's going at them. He's calling Nick Young soft, and then when he's walking off the court, he's like, I'm trying to remember, but he's like, Mitch, I'm trying to practice and harder and get better. These motherfuckers ain't doing shit for me. And so when I was watching The Last Dance and seeing Michael Jordan, I never covered Jordan, but I covered Kobe. Kobe wanted to be like MJ. And so, like, he was hard. I mean, he was obviously that team wasn't that good, but like, he went after Jeremy Lin. He went after Nick Young,
And that all pushes them to get better. And
yeah.
Again, I started NBA Buzz in 2012 when I was 12. And in 2012, as you know, social media in sports was a way different landscape than today. What are your thoughts on like NBA Twitter and all that stuff and the evolution of everything today?
The beauty about it, Mikey, and what you're doing and all the work you put into it, I think you do not, and I've had to learn this like the hard way in terms of media. Like, you don't necessarily need to be attached to a big company, right, to make like an impact. And so I think when I was coming up, obviously it was before social media. So I really did get to live my dreams in terms of working at Sports Illustrated, working at ESPN, working at the Los Angeles Times. But now when you look at Spotify and Instagram and Substack and IG and all that stuff, like, you can cover sports and not have to be attached to those big companies. Because the unfortunate thing, because of economics and the pandemic and stuff like that, you could be killing it at your job and like lose your job. And so the unfortunate thing is, like, I've seen a lot of friends have to try to pivot and figure out like, how am I going to like do what I love to do? And you do what you love to do. And that came from like a pure place of like, you just love it. But because of time, you develop a following, you make some money, you make a living. And so I think media is going to have to follow amazingly, and I don't know whether you know it or not, they're going to have to follow like your lead, developing that organic following. So like there's no one who could, if they wanted to fire you, Mikey, all of your followers would have to unfollow you because you've developed your own brand. And so I think that's where like NBA Twitter is going, where like I follow all the guys who are doing the news and making news and stuff like that, but I love the guys who are doing the memes. I love the guys who are doing like what you're doing. And so like the message to young reporters out there, you know, you have to grind. And Mike, you can kind of do your own show where you speak about the grind and what that means. But you do not necessarily, and this is coming from someone who like took the traditional path. You don't have to do that. But you do have to grind. And I think people who know if they follow you, they're going to get all the information. They're going to get all that. But it's such a unique time. And you're seeing, like, by the way, Mark Stein, who I have more respect. I grew up reading Mark Stein. He covered the Lakers back in the day. Leaving the New York Times for Substack.
Yeah.
Leaving traditional media for a podcast or the green room or the stuff he's doing. That's where it's going, man. And so kudos to you and the other guys who kind of knew that before, but like that's where it's going.
I appreciate that. And, that coming from you is very special to my heart because when I was starting out, I used to see all your tweets. I used to read all your articles on Kobe and whatnot. So I really appreciate that. And Arash, who are the top 3 interviews that you've ever had?
Well, obviously, it has to start with Kobe. And I think it would have been Kobe even before then. But I think, like, after his passing, I mean, I go back to that conversation. Lamar Odom has always been, this was even before he went through all his stuff, was always the most candid interview that I've ever had. I mean, I always felt like I was going to church when I talked to, like, Lamar. I mean, he was amazing. Like, Lamar Odom, and then Pau Gasol is maybe the nicest human being I've ever talked to. Kat, his wife, I've known her since she was in college. When she was working at Channel 2, like I was like, she'll say like I was her mentor, but she was fantastic on her own. But so to kind of, know him and his wife now is incredible. So, but again, I mean, I've covered the Lakers so much, so maybe it's not surprising, but yeah, I mean, Kobe, Lamar, and Pau, and I really love that team. I really love that, 2008, 2009, 2010 team. Like that was a fun team to cover.
Another shout out, NBA Buzz fan, Josh Powell from those years.
Yeah.
Eye on those teams and really, really cool guy. Another big 3 kind of question I got for you. In your life, who are the big 3 of people you've idolized? Let's say 1 being an athlete, 2 being somebody in the journalism field, and 3 being a family member or friend.
Well, yeah, I mean, so let's see, how do I start this? Jim Murray was like my favorite columnist as a kid growing up. And so like, I knew when I went to the Los Angeles Times, it wasn't going to be for like the long haul. Like everyone knows where newspapers are at. And during the pandemic, you can't even find a newspaper. But I always thought like it would be cool just to like work there. So like I was there for a little bit, got to have like that dream come true because of him. My parents, if I can kind of maybe like combine to like my mom and my dad, just what they've meant to me in terms of, just really instilling hard work and treating people the right way and doing things the right way. Trying to think of a third one that would be outside the box. I'm sure there's a good one. I don't know. I'm trying to think of one that's a little bit outside the box. Man. But no, I mean, listen, we've already talked about him, but like when I tell you that Kobe really like influenced my life, like he really did. So like there's sometimes when people are like, oh, you're tweeting about him a lot, I'm like, it's hard to quantify that connection there, and so like that's why it's someone that I really admire, and it means a lot to me, the relationship that we had. And so I'll just say that those 3 people.
Cool. And just for a question for myself to you, what year did you start covering the Lakers?
So my first year was for Slam Magazine. And so the first year full-time, amazingly, and this was like a surreal year, was the Kobe, Shaq, Karl Malone GP year. So like I was a fan before. and
Uh-huh.
I'd get the occasional credential as like a freelancer. So like I did cover like 2000, 2001, 2002. Like I'd go to like I'd get one credential and cover like one game. But in terms of like I covered like every single home game and covered like a handful of road games and whatever. My first full-time year for Slam Magazine was that Kobe Shaq, Karl Malone, GP, and people want to shit on that team. Like they got to the finals, and I still say to this day, if Karl Malone's healthy and that team's healthy, it that series at least goes 6 or 7. And if the Pistons are going to win, they're going to have to do it in Los Angeles, and I don't know if they could have done it. So people want to crap on that team. That team did get to the finals, and if they were healthy, I still say to this day that they win the finals.
And as you said, people want to crap on you, but being a fan of Kobe and then covering him every day, that had to be special. And then becoming friends, wow, I can't even imagine. Of course, I mentioned the Arash Markazi show earlier. Also, WWE. I saw that picture of you at WrestleMania as your pinned tweet. Tell me and the fans about how much you love WWE, and when they came knocking, how special it was to join them.
It's a dream come true, Mikey. I mean, I grew up a wrestling fan. I got all this like memorabilia at home, like where I've sat like ringside, and I got the folding chairs, I got the championship belts, I got all that stuff. When they called with an opportunity to be like an on-camera personality, and they were like, how like Jim Ross used to do like these sit-down interviews back in the day with Steve Austin and Mankind and whatever, like we kind of want you to do that where we're not going to change your name, we're not going to give you a script, like you're going to sit down with the talent and you're going to, just talk to them. I'm like, oh shoot, like that'd be fun. So yeah, like once a month I fly out to Florida and I do the WD, and it's so cool to be a part of that company. And again, that's another one of those things. I thought when I was younger, for example, like that my next job, for example, is the job I'm going to have for the rest of my life. Don't view life like that. Like with the WWE, I don't know how long I'm going to be there, but this is a dream come true. So even if for a year or two, that's a dream. Check mark. Awesome. I love sports talk radio. I don't know how long I'm going to do that, for like a year maybe. Check that off the list. The Los Angeles Times sports columnist. See my picture in the newspaper. Check that off. Like life is about experiences. And so this was a job that I was like, I'm for sure going to take it. This is like an amazing opportunity. Yeah, I mean, and that's why I respect and admire like the new generation, the young generation, because they want to do things where they're creative and they control their own content, whether that's on TikTok or IG or whatnot. Again, when I was a kid coming up in college and my first job, I was very like, got to get a job, Sports Illustrated, like ESPN, like LA Times, keep my head down, do my job. Maybe I'll make more money if they think I'm worth it. Maybe not. Like, I don't know. Like, but then it's like, shoot, like, Mikey, if you kill it, you're going to get more followers. And if you get more followers, you're going to get more from like ad revenue, stuff like that. Like, you control your own destiny. So kudos to you once again, Mikey. And I'm saying that because like sometimes you may not hear it when you're doing the grind, but it is impressive. And I think that's the future of where we're going.
Thank you, and I agree with you. And right now, to be honest, as great as NBA Buzz is and everything I'm doing, I'm trying to get a foot in the door in a big network like that, using that as my background and my resume, you know what I mean? So if I could do both, that'll be perfect. And yeah, and you're right. It's like so like non-traditional, but it's becoming traditional nowadays.
Yeah.
See it more and more. And Arash, something I want to debut here on episode 30 of Inside Buzz is a little game called Instant Buzz, where I give you 5 quick true or false questions. And with a true or a false and one little blurb, you got to answer.
Okay.
All right? Go.
All right.
True or false? LeBron James will win another championship in his career, and why?
True. I think they got the best team on paper next season. I think the Nets are very combustible. I don't like that team. I don't like Kyrie. I don't like KD is all up in the Twitter spaces trying to explain his time with the Warriors to fans. No, I think it's a very combustible team. I like the Lakers, and I think the Lakers will win it next year.
Okay. True or false? Team USA, after a shaky start, will win gold this summer.
Wait, can you repeat that?
Yeah, Team USA, after a shaky start, will win gold this summer.
No. No. They will not win gold. I saw them in Vegas, and I'm like, they're not playing together. They're not playing as a team. And so, you know, I love Iran. I put some money on that game because they were 42.5. I thought, like, well, Team USA is going to win, but they're not going to blow them out, and they did. God bless Hamid Haddadi and all that, and all those guys on that team. No, I don't. I think they medal. I don't think that they win gold, though.
Interesting. Very interesting. True or false? Space Jam 2 is better than Space Jam 1.
No, come on, that's ridiculous. No, Space Jam OG, Space Jam the original is one of the best movies. Not one of the best. I love that movie. Space Jam 2 was never gonna meet Space Jam 1. It was it was kind of worse than I thought. But listen, it's on HBO Max. You didn't have to spend any money watching it. If you have HBO Max, you watch it. And if you don't like it, you change the channel.
Too much CGI, man. Too much.
Exactly.
True or false? In the early days or even now, you've searched up your name on Twitter to see what people are saying about you.
Oh, God. Yes, but then I don't do it anymore because there's a lot of negative people out there. But of course, listen, you have to search your name every now and again, see what's saying about you. But yeah, it's sometimes it's very depressing. I tell young reporters that about the comment section. Like, don't go in the comment section. It's not healthy.
Yeah, oh my God. Especially with thousands of comments a day on NBA Buzz.
Exactly.
Times. Yeah, last true or false, and I got 3 more questions for you, and then I'll let you head out. True or false? You're a California guy. In-N-Out is the best fast food in the world.
I would agree with that. Like when I talk to my friends in Texas, they say Whataburger. Talk to my friends in New York, they say Shake Shack. I love In-N-Out. I think it's the best. I think it's the freshest. I think it's in my view, it's the best. I don't knock people who say Shake Shack. I think people who say Whataburger are out of their minds. I don't understand that one.
I had Shake Shack earlier today with my girlfriend, and we definitely enjoyed it. That's a good one because I don't have In-N-Out out here. So
it's so good. The next time you come out here, you're gonna have to try it.
Perfect. We'll go on a little lunch meeting. And something we mentioned earlier, your weight loss journey. Also, you fighting cancer 2 times and beating it. Tell the audience about that. Which came first, and did the cancer lead up to the weight loss journey?
Yeah, no, cancer was in 2001 when I was at USC, and then again in 2005 after I was out of USC. So it was non-Hodgkin's lymphoma both times. Both times chemo, stem cell transplant on the last one. No, it was funny. The weight loss was so the weight gain was a byproduct of that. Like I was in the hospital and I was eating this fast food and I was eating all this crappy food and I gained all this weight. I mean, I was still amazed at how big I got. I mean, 329 pounds. You go into the hospital and you're like less than 200, and then during the course of however many years, you gain 130 plus pounds. And so 329 was where I kind of was like, I got to stop this. And then I got into this weight loss journey, I guess maybe like 2 years ago, and then lost 130 pounds. And then I kind of have to do like another reset, because during like the pandemic, gyms were closed, everything was closed. You're basically at home. You're like eating, drinking. But the good thing is like I know how to do it now. And, so social media was a big inspiration because I made myself publicly accountable. I just posted every day. So I'm going to start up again. I didn't gain a ton but I gained some weight during like the pandemic. So I'll restart this again on Monday and kind of do that whole like day 1, day 2, and everyone always gives me crap about it. But I did 600 days straight of working out, and so
wow.
it was awesome. Yeah.
That's on record now, so you're starting to get on Monday.
Exactly, I got to do it again.
Now, Arash, you being so busy, you traveling from city to city. I mean, you come to New York, the food capital. How do you not and Philly, how do you not get a Philly cheesesteak? That being said, when you're traveling, how do you limit yourself and how do you discipline yourself enough to keep that weight off?
So that is the hardest thing. Yeah, to your point, like when I travel and I go to Vegas a lot, there's so many great restaurants there. I mean, you just have to realize, I guess, is that I have tasted all these amazing foods. Like, I don't need to do it again. Like, every time I go to Philadelphia, do I really need 2 cheesesteaks? Like, do I really need, like, when I go to Chicago, like a deep dish pizza and all that? Like, would I like to have it? Sure, of course. I don't need to do that every time. You do need to reward yourself. You do need to, you do need to have those like cheat days every now and again. But I mean, the problem is every meal for me back in the day when I was like over 300 pounds was like a cheat day. So the key is to kind of, it's all in moderation. So if I go to New York, I'm going to eat healthy. I'm going to work out. I will give myself one day, one night to go out and enjoy myself, but I'm not going to go crazy. So yeah.
Gotcha. Two more questions. One
Yeah.
about sports. What is one piece of information or advice you could give to a young journalist listening right now?
Man.
I know it's a big question.
No, but it's true. I mean, the game has changed so much. But I would say, don't get down on yourself when times are hard, because this is a brutal business. This is a brutal industry, and so as long as you do the right things, and because the way that you're doing it, I think, is the right way. And a part of me is like, you got to build organically your following. And I think if you do that, the beauty of where the business is going right now is that you don't need to depend on a big outlet to follow your dream. You've built up such a following that I think you could go out on your own and do what you want to do. Now, listen, at the end of the day, would you like to get attached to a traditional outlet? Of course. Like, I think we all do. But I think, yeah, I'm trying to think, like, the best way to say it is just work hard. Because here's the thing. You could be a big fan of the Lakers. Just know your first job isn't going to be covering the Lakers. You got to keep your head down to do your job and do it well. But it's going to be a grind. And just work hard and be open to anything. I mean, because when I was coming up, Mikey, like, I was covering high school sports, and not just high school football, which I think everyone loves. Like, I was covering high school golf, high school, like, lacrosse tournaments or whatever. Just keeping the grind and always saying yes, and putting yourself in a position that, oh, wait, someone can't cover this college game. So I was covering a college game. And the next thing you know, I'm covering like a pro game and things like that. So you work yourself up. By the way, so there's so many fun people in the chat. I will say, when I go to New York, I go to Reserve Cut, Mikey. Reserve Cut, the best kosher steakhouse in the world that I've ever been to. And a lot of my friends are Jewish, and I go to Reserve Cut in New York City. The best steak in a steak tartare that I've ever had.
I try that out. Is that in Manhattan, or is that a different borough?
It's near Wall Street.
Oh, okay. Oh, it's okay. Downtown.
Yeah.
All right. Interesting, man.
Exactly, yeah. Yeah.
So, outside of the top three of the 2021 NBA draft, who's your sleeper?
Well, it's funny because the only guy I really know is Evan Mobley, and I would have talked about him, but like, normally a USC guy is not in the top three, but then USC has a top three player. Yeah. I love Evan Mobley. I think I was actually hanging out with James Weissman in San Francisco, and I was telling James, the funny thing was, this was my first time face-to-face with a player like all year, or in the past 16 months. And same for him. Since he's been in the league, he's never sat face-to-face with a reporter because it's all Zoom. Wow. But we both got tested, and we're good. We did like a conversation in San Francisco. He liked Mobley too, because he was the guy like I talked about in terms of his size and his skill set and what he can do. So I'm only going to lean on guys like I know pretty well, and I'm going to go with Evan Mobley there.
I like Davion Mitchell from Baylor. Yeah. I mean, listen, his name sounds just like Donovan Mitchell, but they look just like each other and play like each other too.
Yeah.
Sacramento, 10 or 11, I believe. And listen, they're guard heavy, but I believe that young core is finally going to start picking up over there. So we'll end it on that note, Arash. Again, I appreciate you coming on to episode 30 of Inside Buzz. I'm Mikey Domagala. That's Arash Markazi. Arash, a pleasure as always.
Thank you so much for having me, man. Let's do this again really soon.
Sounds good. All right. Talk to you soon.
All right. Thanks.